can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat.
ESBR Boxing, we're back, myself and Paul Kelly. That means one thing and one thing only, and it does mean that thing right now. We're going into some previews. Preview mode. We've got actually a cracking fight here, obviously with the some Irish interest. But before we get into that as well, I'd just like to say, like and subscribe to the channel with all your boxing needs up and under one roof. Reviews, previews, big fight breakdowns, fight footage, all that good stuff. So please check out the channel and like and subscribe there. Paul, as mentioned, Irish interest. You are our Irish correspondent in many ways, a few lads from Ireland, but you are our preeminent one, Paul. I'm going to give you the big talk about here, so we'd like to get your insight on this one. We are talking Crocker versus Donovan, Paul. That's what we're talking. We're talking IBF welterweight. Sorry, I was going to say featherweight. Well, welterweight title is on the line. This is obviously a rematch from last time out. Crocker got the victory, contentious victory in many ways. Obviously, disqualification there. Some people kind of agree with it. Some people didn't necessarily agree with it. They thought, maybe a point deduction or, the after the bell punching was a bit, could be down to noise, could be down to explain by other things. Wasn't necessarily need to see the fight stopped, but it was. Paul, let's get your thoughts and predictions on this fight, please, before we unpick maybe some of the other stuff to do with the DQ and obviously the scene at 147 as well. So yeah, thoughts and predictions on this fight, Paul. Who wins, how, and at what stage of the fight, please?
Yeah, thanks, mate. Really looking forward to this one. Was it ringside, obviously, in the first time? And I mean, the clear dominance of Paddy Donovan in that fight really surprised me. A big fan of both, by the way, just to say. Probably a bigger fan of Crocker just because Belfast, they make no bones about it. And like, yeah, I think it really shocked me how dominant Paddy Donovan was in the first fight. Showed some, arguably showed levels there. And like, yes, but in saying that, I do believe that the disqualification was correct. Like the head, but even the elbow, kind of that and the punching after the bell. Of course, I think Donovan, as much as he dominated, he didn't need to do that. But again, that we're going over old ground. We don't need to go over it again. For this one, like we all know, Crocker has to be so much better. He's going to be an absolutely enormous underdog here because everyone knows he got well beaten in the first fight and was fortunate to get the disqualification and it was Donovan's fault. But yeah, I mean, all the wise money and 99% of boxing fans are going to back Paddy Donovan here. But you know what I'm going to do, don't you? Ah,
Yeah,
I,
go on, boy.
I'm again. I'm gonna get called deluded, biased, whatever. I don't care. In the comments, guys, bring it on. You know what? You know what you get with me. I'm backing Lewis Crocker to pull it off, pull it out of the bag. Nobody's expecting him to do it. Everybody's doubting him. And he's gonna land a hook or a right hand, and he's gonna flatten Paddy Donovan, and he's gonna win via stoppage to become the IBF World Welterweight Champion. I can see it now. Windsor Park erupts. Yeah. Again, I don't know what it is. You will laugh. Like that's obviously me maybe being very, very biased. To be perfectly honest. But in saying that, something does just tell me that that could happen. It, I know he didn't show it in the last fight, but he is a big puncher, Lewis Crocker. I think Paddy Donovan is too. Paddy Donovan, definitely the better technician here, but just something telling me that Lewis Crocker's going to win. So yeah, I'm fully expecting a lot of hate in the comments, but sure, it is what it is. What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna try and temper things, but first off, I'd like to I appreciate your prediction. I think it's a tough one for me. I don't know what you'd make about this. I don't know whether, in a way, like, do you think like Lewis Crocker maybe overlooked a bit of Paddy Donovan in the first fight? Because, like you say, it did just seem to it did kind of almost show levels, and I was really surprised at the difference. You take out, I suppose, some of the stuff about the elbows, the head, all that sort of stuff, but like the actual kind of action, you're also going bloody hell, like Donovan is seemingly a level above Lewis Crocker here. So I was really quite surprised at that. I think. Judging off that, I kind of can't look beyond it, to be honest with you. I think Crocker would have to come significantly improved than what we saw the first time round. That I'm not sure with the time frame, etc. And like the kind of whether he'd have the kind of nous at this stage of his career to sort of develop that possibly. It'd have to be so tactically spot on to bridge that gap. I'm not sure I can kind of go there with him on it. So I'm actually going to go Paddy Donovan. The question for me really is, do I think? Because I think that the stoppage might have been coming in the first fight, to be honest with you, had it not have ended the way it did. So I'm sitting there going, do I think Paddy Donovan will stop Crocker? I actually don't. I think actually Crocker will improve to the point where I think it'll go points. But I think Paddy Donovan will win it on points, frankly. maybe somewhere sort of 8-4 sort of range for me. I think it'd be fairly comfortable for Paddy Donovan. I'm not looking to say that, to disappoint you in any way or to be contentious, but I just think the levels I sort of saw there, I think Paddy Donovan for me on points. But I mean, if we look at that first fight, you mentioned obviously the head was used. There obviously were points deducted. The elbows was a big thing. I saw people pointing out, weren't they, on social media afterwards. And then obviously the punch after the bell, which ended the disqualification. But the question I want to sort of ask you really is, how much of that do you think was kind of premeditated? Do you think that was kind of to do with the occasion? Just got a bit much for Paddy Donovan. He got not much in the sense that he was overwhelmed. He was just overexcited. And do you think that was the right call? You alluded you think it was the right call, but do you think some of the stuff, the point deductions, all that stuff was equally fair?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I do think it was the right call. The punch was after the bell that sent Crocker down. Um, that was after a couple of point deductions, as you said. So I do think that it was the right call. But I will caveat that by saying I don't like I feel for Paddy Donovan because the atmosphere in there that night was ridiculous. Like, not being biased, but like a few others can testify, a few guys that we know in the media, and like we were all ringside and you just couldn't hear yourself think. Like, so I understand he might not have heard the bell. That's a genuine possibility. The referee should have been closer to the action as well. That's obviously another point. But he genuinely might not have heard the bell, Paddy Donovan. And in that case, like I can't really blame him. But unfortunately, rules are rules, I suppose. So that's kind of the way I see it. I do have a lot of sympathy for Paddy Donovan because he was sensational, and let's be honest, he deserved to win the fight. But a few silly errors, a few things he didn't need to do, with the head, the elbow that it didn't get deducted. I think that was arguably the worst one, the one that sliced Crocker's eye open. That was a bad one. Again, didn't need to do all of that, but he'll know that for this time around. He'll know the way Crocker fights, coming forward, high guard. So yeah, I think it was the right call, the disqualification, but equally I do have a lot of sympathy for Paddy Donovan because I mean you really could not hear a thing in there.
And do you think were you surprised yourself at the difference in levels between the two, Donovan's dominance in that fight? And again, do you think is there any way you think that Crocker overlooked him, or do you think like the dominance was literally just pure down? Both men sort of came in as best as they could, and he still was dominant, or there was maybe a bit from Crocker's side where he thought, I'll kind of beat Paddy Donovan. How do you kind of see that?
I think we all knew that Paddy Donovan fundamentally is a better boxer. Like I think that was kind of we knew that, but that's not always the case. In fights, we often see that that doesn't really matter sometimes. Um, I don't know whether he. I don't think he overlooked Paddy Donovan. I don't think that's true. I think maybe. Well, there's a few things. I think Crocker struggles at the weight. I think the tactics were all wrong. Him and Billy Nelson. He will need to do something a whole lot differently. I think he was looking for. I think he was head hunting and looking for like knockout shots for every time he threw a punch. Crocker. Um, so that makes me think like maybe he was getting believing his own hype about the power really. And he was miles away, some of them, from Paddy Donovan, just too slick, too fast. In and out, Paddy Donovan. So I don't think he overlooked him, but I think the tactics were just all wrong on the night. And I do also believe he might struggle a little bit with the weight.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the weight's definitely an issue. But I suppose if we look beyond this fight, we talk about the winner. We both got different winners on this one. But talking about the winner generally, as he goes on to the 147-pound division, welterweight division. Now that Boots has gone, obviously look at some of the names around that division. Norman Jr. Other guys, Stanionis, Santilli, and all those sort of going lines names as well. Do you see the winner of this fight potentially being able to sort of prevail and maybe sort of ascend to the top of the division if he wins this fight, maybe sort of in a unification fights and that sort of thing, or do you think there's kind of a limit to where they'll sort of fit, even though they'll be sort of the champion, the world champion at that level?
I know I'm picking Crocker to win, but I think if you're looking at it on a world stage, I think Donovan has more of a chance to maybe hang up there with those other guys that you've mentioned. I think still a bit away from that right now, even though this is an IBF world title fight. I think whoever was to win this, in my opinion, would probably be the weakest champion. Or maybe you would say Barrios as well after the Pacquiao performance. Um, but like Brian Norman Jr., I think is he your standout number one now that Boots has gone up? Still a lot to prove himself. I think there's an opportunity here for whoever wins this to like be in big fights because and stamp their authority as the number one at 147 because not saying that I think they will do that, but they're now that Boots is gone, there is no out and out number one. So who's to say that a Paddy Donovan can't go on to win this fight and go on to unify and become the best fighter in the division? Who's to say he can't? So yeah, I think still a long way to go, but I'd like to think that I think welterweight is not the division it once was, fairly weak. But yeah, these guys are already both in the top 10 anyway, I think. Regardless. But I think a world title on the line, few world title fight, another couple of unifications down the line. Yeah, I think they could. I think Donovan has more of a chance to hang up there with those guys, to be honest.
Yeah, you know what? I totally agree with you. I think definitely, I think Paddy Donovan's style would makes it definitely better up there than Lewis Crocker. I think, like you say, we maybe need this is almost like a for me the kind of stepping stone before launching into some of those other fights. I think the likes of sort of Stadion Norman Jr. It would definitely able to hang with him. Possibly, arguably, predict that he might be. I've got a sense that you actually kind of do better against Brian Norman than Stadion for some weird reason. But again, come at me in the comments for that one as well. But I do think that Paddy Donovan could potentially go on and unify in the division. I don't think Lewis Crocker could. To be perfectly honest with you, in that sense, I do expect maybe to see over the next sort of 18 months or whatever this one to maybe see where their level is. But I do think, like as you said, Paddy Donovan correctly said, I think he's got a better chance of hanging up there in that division. But guys, sorry, that's all we've got time for in this video. Obviously, as I said at the top of the outlet there, please like and subscribe. We've got all your boxing needs up and under one roof. Paul, thank you very much for joining me. As always, let us know in the comments who you think's going to win this one because we ourselves are split. It's one of those gorgeous moments where one of us will be right, one of us will be wrong. Please leave your comment as well in as to who you think will win this one, and obviously a bit of your overview of the division as well. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me, guys. I've said it once already, but I'll say it again. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back in time for more previews soon.